Rants. Like and subscribe. Alright, you guys click the thumbnail. I was actually holding back on this. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I was gonna do it eventually, but a couple reasons, right? Because for one, you guys see this is the rant. Brenda's Got a Baby, Tupac Shakur, right? This is a true story. We're going to talk about everything, right? That's one reason. Reason two, you know, Rant's getting his fictional bag, right? I can tell a story, I guess, right? That's what you guys like about me, right? And the thing about this thing is this is real. Like, this is like authentic, okay? Stitch jerseys. This is real. This really happened. Okay, so I really don't like to get on stuff like this. I don't like to, y'all know I don't like to do stuff like this, right? Number three, right? Another reason. I don't even know how many reasons I said, right? My mind's cluttered, but another reason is because Tupac fans, aka Tupac stans. Okay, I don't want to offend anybody. All right, I know you guys are probably already triggered by that. See, I love Tupac just like everybody else, right? He is not my favorite artist. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I might lose subs off that alone. Okay, I love Tupac though. All right, but his fans. You know, the thing with my videos is I try to check all my boxes, right? And if you, one hiccup, they on your line. You may see 5 of them in these comments, okay? I'm prepared for it, okay? I'm Rants. That's what I do, right? Why did I do this video? Well, it's very simple. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Rants live in a capitalist society, right? You guys are already familiar. The trial is trending, you know, with Keefy D and all that. Rants won't be speaking to... It's trending, right? All right, I'm not talking about that, right? But nonetheless, though, I felt like, why not? You know, like, it's Tupac, right? You know, I'm going to give you a nice thumbnail and whatnot. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. We're going to be talking about some rough things, okay? So this is an adult channel. This channel is for adults, okay? If you forget the fact if you heard the song once or twice. If you don't know this song front and back, I don't even want you to watch this video. I have other videos that you can go ahead and watch by all means, but I need the people that really know this song and know this story, all right? Because Brenda's Got a Baby is one of those songs that everybody knows, but I don't think everybody understands just how dark this story really is. Like, most people remember the hook, the Brenda's got a baby. Y'all remember that, right? You remember the black and white music video, right? You remember Tupac finding the abandoned baby at the end. We all remember it, right? But when you examine the lyrics, the video, and the real newspaper story that inspired Tupac, see, you realize that this wasn't simply a song about teenage pregnancy. This was a story about a 12-year-old child who was SA'd, because you know I can't say it, right? Neglected by her family, abandoned by the father of her baby, and rejected by society, and then blamed for everything that happened afterwards. Okay? I'm sorry. Look, this is one of them. All right, you came to the right. Oh, I almost cursed. You came to the right place, though. All right. Now, here's what makes this story even crazier. More than 30 years after Tupac recorded this song, right, author Jeff Pearlman went looking for the real baby and actually found him. Yeah, so today we're breaking down the video, examining the lyrics, and revealing what really happened to Brenda and her baby, right, after their song, right? Now, this is Brenda's Got a Baby right now. You guys already know Brenda's Got a Baby appeared on Tupac's debut album, Tupacalypse Now, released in 1991. Okay, this was before All Eyes on Me, before Death Row Records, before California Love. Okay, this is before Tupac became the bandana-wearing sex symbol of West Coast rap, right? No, yeah, at this point, Tupac was only 20 years old, okay? And he was introducing himself to the world as like a socially conscious rapper. He was focused on poverty, police brutality, and the struggles facing young black people, okay? Now think about that, because most new rappers, you know, they want their first major record to make them look like they rich, right? But not Tupac. He introduced himself telling the story of an abused 12-year-old whom society had thrown away. All right, Tupac is a legend, man. Like, I know I say that he's not my favorite rapper, but this guy is a legend. And the video is opening up as if somebody is passing neighborhood gossip. You guys remember, I hear Brenda's got a baby, but Brenda's barely got a brain. A damn shame. The girl can hardly spell her name. That's not our problem. That's up to Brenda's family. And then Tupac explains it, right? See, people have heard that Brenda is pregnant, but instead of asking whether she is safe, whether she was abused, or whether she needs help, everybody's discussing her like she is just the latest story circulating around the neighborhood, right? This is the first important detail. See, Brenda's situation is public enough for everybody to talk about, but apparently not important enough for anybody to intervene. Sad, man. This is sad. We're gonna get deep into this, right? See, everybody knows Brenda has a baby coming, right? Nobody's asking why a 12-year-old has a baby, though, right? And that's the difference, right? Like, it's the difference. It's the whole point of the song, I guess, right? The video is presented in black and white, which makes everything feels more like a documentary than a traditional music video. There's no expensive cars, no mansions, no nightclubs, no glamorous version of the neighborhood, none of those flashy hot women that Tupac loved. You know, Tupac got around. We all know that, right? But see, the lack of color forces you to focus on Brenda and the conditions surrounding her. It also makes the video feel like the newspaper story that originally inspired Tupac has come to life. Right? Now, who is Brenda, right? Tupac immediately explains that Brenda is a 12-year-old and has received very little education. But he's not insulting her intelligence, just to be cruel. See, he's showing us that Brenda has already been neglected long before she becomes pregnant. See, if a 12-year-old can barely read or write, that means multiple adults and institutions have already failed her. Her parents failed to notice. Her school system failed to help her. Her community failed to protect her, right? Then the same adults who ignored all of these warning signs will eventually judge Brenda for not knowing how to handle a situation that many grown adults can't even handle, right? It's sad and it gets deep. It gets real deep, right? See, Brenda barely even know her moms, and her dad was a junkie throwing dope up in his arms. See, it's sad, because I bet Brenda doesn't even know. Just because you in the ghetto doesn't mean you can't grow. See, Tupac is telling us that Brenda's family lives in extreme poverty and that her father's addicted to drugs. See, so Brenda isn't growing up in a stable home with money, supervision, and emotional support. See, she's a child attempting to survive inside a family that's already struggling to survive itself. Now, that doesn't excuse what happens to the baby, but it explains how the situation was allowed to develop. You know, this tragedy didn't begin when Brenda gave birth. No, it began years earlier when everybody decided her life wasn't important enough to pay attention to, right? And that leads us to the pregnancy, I guess, right? See, because Brenda's got herself a boyfriend. Her boyfriend was her cousin. Now let's watch the joy in. She tried to hide her pregnancy from her family, who really didn't care to see or gave a damn if she went out and had a church of kids. As long as when the check came, they got first dibs. Now Brenda's belly's getting bigger, but no one seems to notice any change in her figure. She's 12 years old and she's having a baby. In love with her who's her crazy, and getting all she thinks he'll be with her forever, and dreams of a world where the two of them are together, whatever. Alright, so this is when it get a little tricky, right? See, Brenda becomes pregnant after being SA'd, okay, by an older cousin, And I want to pause right there because people sometimes describe this part of the story as if Brenda simply made a bad decision with the boyfriend. No, she was 12. She was a child. She could not meaningfully consent to a sexual relationship with an older relative, okay? Brenda was a victim of abuse. But because the song comes from the early 1990s, you know, some of the language reflects how people discuss these situations at that time. And I get it, right? But today, we should be very clear about what happened. Brenda didn't create this situation by herself. An older relative abused her, impregnated her, and then discovered when she needed him. Yeah, because the video shows Brenda dependent, you know, on his promises and whatnot, right? You remember that, right? On the bed scene. Like, she believes he loves her, you know? She believes he would remain with her, right? She believes they're going to raise this baby together, but when the consequences become real, right? He abandons her. He gets to walk away and continue his life while the 12-year-old girl carries the physical, emotional, and social consequences, right? And nobody makes a song called Brenda's Cousin Should Be in Prison, right? I mean, Hennessy enemies, Brenda's cousin should be in prison. We didn't get that song, right? You know, but everything becomes Brenda's responsibility though, right? And before I even continue on with the song, let's talk about the family's reaction real quick, because that's one of the coldest parts of the song, right? Now, the family, right, they're not primarily concerned about the abuse, you know, her age or what the pregnancy has done to her emotionally. No, their concern is whether the baby might be an additional government assistance and, you know, inside the household. Like, that's the only thing they care about is another check, right? It tells us that Brenda is being viewed as a source of income instead of a child who needs protection, right? However, the video makes the family response feels even harsher. Like, once the truth is exposed, Brenda is shamed and rejected instead of, comforted. Like, I mean, imagine being a 12-year-old, you know, pregnant by an older relative. I guess if you're a male, you can't, right? But, you know, abandoned by the person who promised to help you out and then discovering that your own family is more angry than concerned, right? You know, what exactly is Brenda supposed to do in that? Who is she supposed to trust? You know, the adults want her to make responsible decisions, but none of the adults around her are behaving responsibly, right? And this leads to the birth. And we go back to the lyrics, right? Whatever. He left her and she had the baby solo. She had her on a bathroom floor and didn't know so. She didn't know what to throw away and what to keep. She wrapped the baby up and threw him in the trash heap. I guess she thought she'll get away, wouldn't hear the cries. She didn't realize how much the little baby had her ass. Now the baby's in the trash heap bawling. Mama can't help it, but it hurts to hear her calling. Brenda wants to run away. Mama say you making me lose pay, and social workers here every day. And basically Tupac is explaining, like, yeah, Brenda successfully hides her pregnancy until she gives birth alone on a bathroom floor. That scene is disturbing because there is no doctor, no nurse, and no trusted adult. This child is experiencing childbirth by herself while trying to prevent anybody from discovering what happened. She's scared, confused, and physically unprepared, right? And after the infant is born, Brenda panics. She wraps the infant and places the baby in the garbage. This is the moment people remember most, right? But Tupac refuses to present Brenda as the same emotionless monster, right? He explains that she doesn't fully understand what she is doing. She is traumatized, right? She's making a horrifying decision while experiencing fear, pain, and desperation. Then Brenda hears that baby crying. That sound breaks through her panic. The baby isn't an abstract problem anymore. This is a living child who looks like her and it needs her, right? Brenda retrieves the baby because despite everything happening around her, she feels a connection to her child, right? And now, of course, we got to talk about the song and the difference between the song and actual events, right? See, because this is where the music video and the lyrics begin presenting the story a little differently, right? Now, Brenda's gotta make her own way. Can't go to her family, they won't let her stay. No money, no babysitter, she couldn't keep a job. She tried to sell crack, but ended up getting robbed. So now what's next? There ain't nothing left to sell, so she sees sex as a way of leaving hell. It's paying the rent, so she really can't complain. Prostitute found, slain, and Brenda's her name. She got a baby. And the song describes Brenda leaving home with the baby and trying to survive. She looks for legitimate work but discovers that nobody wants to hire a 12-year-old mother with no education or job history, right? Or childcare, right? And again, society expects Brenda to take responsibility while denying her every legitimate way of doing it, right? She attempts to sell drugs, but she's robbed. Eventually, she turns to prostitution because she believes that's the only way she's going to feed herself and her baby. Then Brenda is slain, right? She's deleted, right? And that's how her story ends in the song. Now, the video uses a different dramatic structure, right? It shows Brenda being overwhelmed by her circumstances and abandoning the baby again. And Tupac hears the infant crying, finds the baby, and carries the child to safety, right? That ending places Tupac inside the story as the person who finally noticed what everybody else ignored. He hears the cry, right? He stops, he looks, he responds. He's Tupac Shakur, right? This is what the adults surrounding Brenda should have done for her, right? Tupac rescues the baby, but the larger tragedy is nobody rescues Brenda, right? Now, what is this song really about, right? Brenda's Got a Baby is not simply a warning to young girls about pregnancy, no. That interpretation places all responsibility on Brenda and misses Tupac's larger message. See, this song is about a chain reaction of institutional and personal failures. A relative abuses Brenda. Her family fails to protect her. Her school allows her to fall behind. The baby father / cousin abandons her. Employers won't hire her, right? The streets exploit her. Men purchase her body from her at 12 years old, man. God damn it. You know, and after all that, society looks at Brenda and asks, why didn't she make better choices? Better choices with what support though? With what education? With what money? Say it, man. Like, Brenda's expected to behave like an adult whenever society needs somebody to blame, right? But she's treated like an invisible child whenever she needs help. Tupac is forcing the listener to recognize that Brenda's situation affects the entire community. That's what he said in the damn beginning of the song, right? Brenda was abandoned first, man. Now let's get into the real story, the part that you guys probably been waiting for, right? Now, this is where the story moves beyond the song and music video, right? According to the author, Jeff Pearlman's reporting, Tupac was filming Juice in New York on April 21st, 1991, when a production assistant handed him a copy of the New York Daily News, right? And inside was an article titled Cries in the Night. Please, by all means, look this up. Rants isn't lying, okay? The article described a 12-year-old girl living in the Noble Drew Ali housing project in Brownsville, Brooklyn. The girl had been raped by a cousin, hidden her pregnancy, and delivered a baby boy on the bathroom floor. She wrapped the newborn in plastic and threw him down the building's garbage chute. Now, a maintenance man named MacArthur Williams later activated the trash compactor, but heard a faint cry coming from inside. Thank God. Police were called, and a sergeant discovered the newborn underneath some newspaper. The baby was cold and dehydrated, and the officer initially believed he was deceased. Okay? Then he touched the baby's stomach and felt movement. The baby was alive. Tupac was so disturbed by the article that he asked to be left alone while on set, right? And like approximately a half an hour later, he emerged from his trailer with the foundation of Brenda's Got a Baby written on paper. He wrote it, you know. Artist, man. But Tupac did not simply repeat the newspaper article, right? He created a fictional character and expanded the story to address poverty, addiction, family neglect, prostitution, and, you know, the limited options facing girls like Brenda. See, the real mother was 12 and the real baby was discarded. However, the newspaper article did not say that the girl later became a prostitute and was slain, right? That part was dramatized for Tupac's storyline, of course, and the real baby survived. Now, let's talk about when Jeff Pearlman finds the baby. Right now, for decades, the identities of the mother and the baby remained private. Then author Jeff Pearlman began researching his Tupac biography, Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur, right? And Pearlman became determined to discover what happened to the baby. With help from a researcher, he eventually located a man named Devon Hodge. Devon was born in New York City in 1991 and later adopted by Robert and Marcia Hodge. He grew up in Brooklyn before moving to Las Vegas at 13. His adoptive parents told him that he had been adopted under traumatic circumstances, but they never explained the full story. And after both of his adoptive parents passed away, Devon took an ancestry DNA test because he wanted to learn where he came from, right? And the results connected him with his biological relatives in Brooklyn. So when Devon contacted them, one of his relatives asked how he felt about Tupac, right? And Devon said, I like his music. I love his music. Everybody loves Tupac. He's born in 91, so people in that age bracket love Tupac, right? And that was when the relative told him something that probably sounded impossible. See, they believed he was the baby who inspired the song Brenda's Got a Baby. Now imagine growing up listening to Tupac and then discovering that one of his most important songs began with the story of your birth. It's just crazy, right? Devon later returned to the housing project and reunited with members of his biological family, right? A relative even showed him the garbage chute he had been placed as a newborn. But there was still one unanswered question. What happened to his mother, right? So now that leads us to the reunion. So the same person that connected the author with the son end up locating Devon's biological mother, whose name is Jeanette. Now, when Jeanette learned that Devon had been found, she became overwhelmed. She explained that after authorities rescued him, she was taken to the hospital and allowed to hold him. See, she was allowed to name him too. She chose Devon. Jeanette had spent years searching for her son but was never able to locate him. This is before the internet, right? And she even had his name tatted on her arm, so she would always carry him with her. And through an unbelievable coincidence, like when this author contacts the mother, she just so happened to be at a concert in Las Vegas, the same city where Devon lived. So the mother and son met that night at Caesar's Palace. They hugged and kissed and talked for hours, more than 3 decades after a terrified 12-year-old placed a newborn in a garbage chute. The mother and son were finally reunited. And that reunion happened less than a mile from the location where Tupac was deleted in 1996. Ain't that a crazy coincidence? Crazy coincidence, right? You listening to the story, you ain't even thinking that. That's how you know Rants can tell a story, right? But I'm going to end this off on a good note. I want you to know she's got. I want you to know she's got. I want you to know she's got a baby. Baby! Randumb Rants. Like and subscribe. I hope y'all like this one too,